Good boy.
Hello, welcome to Doc and Disabilities. We have another guest today. Go ahead and introduce yourself, please.
Hi, well, my name is Liam, but I go by Delphi online. I'm a online professional game master, specializing in Dungeons and Dragons, as well as a number of other game systems, including Powered by the Apocalypse and things like that. And I especially work with those with in the LGBT community, as well as those who are neurodivergent, and I really enjoy working with those who might have mental health challenges.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit more about your background and how you transitioned into a full-time game master.
So I was a high school social studies teacher for 7 years through the pandemic. And during the pandemic, I discovered how much I enjoy working from home, for sure, but also discovered a great deal of anxiety and such like that related to undiagnosed ADHD, and eventually also discovered that I likely am autistic, though not diagnosed. So it's been something about trying to just get into doing something that I enjoy, something that I can work with people who work with me and work around what I have, and lowered my anxiety a great deal, while also being able to enjoy what I do.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's very important to find something that's not going to sacrifice your well-being, but also fulfill you.
For sure.
Yeah. So, okay, my next question is, so what are some of the things about role-playing in general that you think, or that you feel benefits the individuals who have different mental health challenges and or neurodiversities?
So our world and our culture really puts a huge emphasis on productivity and being out there and getting everything accomplished, and all of these things that we see in media and are pressured through school and into our lives. And role playing allows us to let go of some of that. It allows us to be something different. It allows us to experience a different facet of the human experience. And in many ways, especially for those with mental health challenges or neurodivergencies, it can be a gateway into finding something that is different from the everyday pressures that the world throws at us, that culture kind of just keeps at us with. And I find that not only for myself, but for my regular players, it just becomes an awesome experience, an easy way for us to do something different, do something that is more us. And to try something new. And if that doesn't go right, to try something else. We can always change a character. We can always, kind of shift around our game and such like that. So it becomes really an awesome place to just be something different in a world that requires so much out of us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I agree. Like, there's an element of acting in it that. Because I know that sometimes when you're yourself, it could be very awkward or anxiety driving to have social interactions. But if you get to be this character, you're not exposing yourself. You are this other individual, and you can perhaps do more than you feel you can do on your own. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And even more than that, within neurodivergent population, so often we end up wearing masks and trying to just simply fit into a society that's not necessarily built for the way our minds work. So even then we can be more of ourselves sometimes by being able to let go of those masks and let go of the pressures of society and such like that, and enjoy something different.
Yeah, perfect. I love that. Um, so I know a little bit about you because I have actually worked with you, as you know, in one of your games or several of your games.
A
But
few.
yeah, a few. Always with the letter K as the first letter of the names.
Always.
But yeah, so I know that you've built this community of past and present players in your Discord. Um, Talk to me more about your intentions about building this community, especially around, mental health and neurodivergencies.
The really awesome thing is that it was kind of an accident. The community was built because I needed a convenient place for my players to gather, and as the community started to grow, I started to realize how many similarities there were among people who had come to me, and the kinds of things that they wanted to share and talk about and things like that. And it's really kind of grown from there. And it's really exciting to be able to see that as not necessarily the intention that I initially had with it, but that it grew on its own and became almost this organic place that players can go when they need a break from the world.
Yeah, like I think that it's nice to have sorry, it's nice to have a community where you can go to and feel safe and feel like you can just be yourself. And like you were saying before, like in society, when we're out the door, we have to pretend like we're something else. But then, and that takes a lot of energy, and it can be draining. So it's like relieving.
Exactly, and just being able to provide that, not just for myself but for the people in my community, and allowing them the place to go and relax and express some of those memes and some of those ideas and some of those fun moments from their games and things like that with the wider community. It's really, really cool.
That's awesome. And I also know that, like, so the whole like nerdy and neurodivergent and love of role playing is kind of like that Venn diagram that's like the circle.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We're like the LGBT community plus neurodivergence plus nerdy gamers. We have that huge central part of that Venn diagram. It's not a divergent circle at all. It's very, very tight.
Yeah. And I think that lends to people feeling comfortable, being in a community like this and doing these things.
For sure, for sure.
What are some experiences that you've had um, while hosting your games, working with different individuals with a variety of different mental health or, wherever they are on the spectrum of neurodivergencies?
It's interesting because you see so many different kinds of players. I am grateful for the time that I spent as a teacher, because that allowed me to see dozens upon dozens, hundreds of different students with different kinds of neurodivergencies and things like this. Some of them were hidden, some of them were not. And with my players, it's much the same. Each one is different. And it's a great place to be able to celebrate those differences and to see how those differences interact. And even when there's challenges, to be able to kind of work with the players and find the solutions and the best ways forward for them, to make them better role players within the group, giving which is a small group setting, which in somebody who is neurodivergent is often a place that can be easier to work with, easier to handle, and allows kind of room for some mistakes as well, which is really cool. Kind of low stakes kind of place to mess up a little bit and see what happens. you know, mess around, find out.
Especially the ones like the superhero one where you have like a lot of, or Avatar where you just have a lot of creativity. There's not a
Mm-hmm.
lot of like rules that are constricting you like in D&D.
Yeah, D&D does become a bit crunchy for some, but there are a number of amazing other games out there that are just really, really loose and free with the rules. Powered by the Apocalypse is a large scale game system that covers a number of different games, where everything is kind of designed around players' creativity. Sure, there are rules, but those rules are incredibly loose and easy to work with. There's one within that system called City of Mist, where they take some of those tight, or some of those loose rules and loosen them up even more, where, your abilities are actually based on how you describe your character. Rather than by statistics or stats or anything like that, which is a really awesome system that I have going.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds amazing. And like, and I know because I've played those with you, or some of those with you, and like it's fun because like anything, and it's almost like you can never have anything wrong happen because it's like whatever happens still like moves forward the thing, and you're still involved, and like it's, in real life you have like consequences and things, but like I feel like in these games it's easier to make the mistakes and stuff because it's not going to hurt you in the end.
Exactly. Yes, you can have some consequences happen, but they're there to move a story forward, and it allows the players to really share in that experience. And that's true both in D&D and in Powered by the Apocalypse and most of these other game systems that are out there. Is you have that ability to fail, but have fun doing so. It's one thing to stumble in life and have so many challenges that face us, but if roll a one in D&D, maybe that means that the lockpick breaks and the guard comes around, sees you in the corner, and now you have to just make a grand escape, and that becomes another huge and fun element in the story. So it's really cool to be able to kind of let loose and not have to worry about the real world consequences of some of these actions, and allow yourself to just, again, mess around, find out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You talked about a little bit about your journey getting here and your anxiety, figuring out your neurodivergencies. Um, were you before you became the game master and you were still teaching? Like, did you were you involved with role play yourself and like felt like that was an avenue that you wanted to pursue, or did you just start as a game master?
So I had been interested in role play for a while. My first experience in role playing was an online message board system more than 20 years ago. That was strictly story based, no dice, no anything like that. We just kind of pushed the story forward and created interesting conflicts and situations for our characters. And then over time, I had a group of friends who wanted to play D&D, but nobody wanted to deal with having to be the DM. And I started with version 3.5, which would have been about 15 years ago, maybe, or so, which was pretty math heavy, and our group didn't really settle into that. But a little bit before the pandemic, we picked it up again with the fifth edition, which is a whole lot easier. And just started running with it. We were doing games about once a month or so, and it was a lot of fun. I had the resources already when I started to make the decision to to start on this journey. So it was kind of an easy decision because it was something that I had the resources in. It was something that I felt comfortable with. It was just something that I needed to, kind of make a few adjustments and, try and, do a few different things and see what happened. And, now here I am, almost 2.5 years into this journey and more than 600 games played professionally.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, I actually started with something similar with a chat-based one, more around Star Trek. But I did that for like, I don't know, a couple decades before I even started with D&D. I what I like about the D&D is like the platforms like the D&D Beyond, where it does all the math for you.
Yeah, yeah.
So that, I feel like that makes it a little more accessible to those that don't like math.
Yeah, and to be fair, D&D has made the math quite a bit easier over the years. Uh, Today, it's very, very simple. You either are kind of, your character either knows something or they don't, and they get the bonus or they don't with it. And the digital platforms, whether it be D&D Beyond or Roll20 or any of the others, just do those calculations for you and make it really easy for a player to really access it. And Powered by the Apocalypse is in many ways even easier, depending on which particular game you get into with those math functions and such.
um, so what do you do when one of your players comes and says that they've been triggered or just felt uncomfortable by something either in or out of the game, like in the community that you've created?
So first of all, I listen. That's the most important thing, to hear what's being said and what the player is trying to tell me about what happened. I never push. The player is within their rights to tell me what they need to tell me without me being the one to stand there and say, well, why is that a problem, or what, anything like that. The only thing I need to know is what can we do to make things right. So a lot of that is just listening, hearing it out, understanding what they're trying to tell me, and then working with the player to find a solution together. Because it's not about me. It's not about, to an extent, it's not about them, but it is about the challenge that we have come to face, whether it be something that comes up in game accidentally, because it's almost always accidental. It's very rare that I have a situation where somebody is trying to actively be triggering or anything like that. It's usually something where somebody doesn't realize it, and they just need a little bit of a push or whatever it might be. So most often it's just a quick conversation, listening, hearing what they have to say, and then finding our best way forward for the situation at hand. But every situation is different, so that listening becomes vital.
Is that something that you learned over your years of teaching?
It's easier now. It is certainly something that I did learn in teaching, but in when you're teaching, there are certain things that you have to still adhere to. There are certain rules and restrictions and limitations, even based on the fact that the education system is massively underfunded, with far too many, far more students than the staff can often handle, meaning that student needs are often overlooked in ways that are unfortunate. And in many ways, that was one of the reasons why I had to leave education. Was it felt like it was no longer serving the students in the way that I felt it could or should.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's so many different systems in America that need to be revamped for sure.
Yeah.
And education is definitely one of them. So I guess going further in that, how do you make sure that your that you keep everything safe for people, like for that people feel safe coming and playing the game with you?
Sure. First of all, I keep an open door policy. If somebody has something that might be potentially triggering, I provide a survey to kind of get a handle on those before we even start. So as the game master, I drive the story, and I can drive it away from certain topics or keep other topics kind of out of line of sight. Um, and then I also maintain what's known as an X card, meaning that a player always has the ability to say, "Hey, whatever just happened, we can't do that. That's not okay. No bueno. No good." And again, much like any other the conflicts that I mentioned a moment ago, they it's not about trying to dig and find out exactly why this is triggering or why this is a challenge or why this is a problem. It's more about, okay, what did we do wrong? How can we fix it? And how can we move forward? And every situation is different. So we have to acknowledge that. But those few things, simple but important, can definitely make a difference in whether or not the players can enjoy what they're doing and be a part of, be an active part of the game.
Amazing. Okay. So, yeah, so like essentially you do what you can to make sure that everyone that there isn't going to be any like triggering or anything,
Right.
and then as it comes up, like, because even maybe the person doesn't even know it's triggering until it happens.
Exactly, and which is why we keep that X card in place. It's like there's no question. You always have the right to say, you know what, no, let's not do that. Let's say that something different happened. Let's create the story in a different way. And every player has access to that. Every player can call it out and say, you know what, let's back that up and say, no, that's not okay. And from there, it's just about making sure that a group of 6 or fewer, that we keep it right for the group, whatever that might mean.
Right. So it's great. Like you can be very flexible, and just the nature of role playing anyway is just this creative outlet. So you can make it whatever you want.
Yeah. If for instance, if somebody doesn't want to harm animals, I can make it very easy that I don't put animals into harm's way like that. I don't have the great boar come at them and say, hey, what do? Put them in a line of fire where the most obvious track would be to attack. I can easily do that without a problem.
Okay. How about if there's like a player to player conflict? How do you deal with that?
With that situation, it is rare, but when it has happened in the past, what I have generally tried to do is separate the players in the sense of trying to hear out both of them, or all of them, from their perspective, without the others in the room to try and kind of hurl accusations and miscommunications more, or greater miscommunications back at each other, and things like that. And I just simply want to listen and see what possibilities we might be able to find for compromise. And it just comes down to trying to find the best solution for each player. In extreme cases, the compromise may end up being, let's find a different table for a certain player. Maybe a certain table just isn't the right mix for that player. And so if there's another game that I have that might be right for them, then that's wonderful. Let's go ahead and see if we can transfer them to a different game that might be better suited to their needs. If there is a situation where I am not the right DM and such like that. I also don't hold that against any player. It's just, you have to find the right table for you, and that's the other beauty for this, over education, where you get the students that are thrust upon you. Here I can kind of work with the players and make sure that it remains right for them. But at the same time, I know that there are a lot of DMs out there, and many of them are very, very good at what they do. And some of them will operate the table just a little bit differently. And that's a good thing, because that means that there's a lot of opportunities for people to find the right table for themselves, rather than trying to force something that doesn't work.
Right. Have you ever lost anyone because of that conflict?
There have been a couple who have decided that it was best to move on and find a different table for themselves, and that's fine. That's the decision that they make, and it's what needs to happen. Then let's do it. It's far better to do that than it is to sit there and try and force on any side of a conflict something that isn't working. And in those cases where that has happened, I've been forthcoming. I've tried to provide compromises and possibilities and suggestions for how to resolve the conflict before it gets to that point. And ultimately, if the player does end up deciding to leave, that is their decision, and it's the right one for them, because it's the one that they made, and it's it takes them away from the conflict.
Right. So it's like you have this open door, but you're not gonna like force anyone to do something that they don't want to, because that's like the exact opposite of why you have this community in the first place.
Exactly. If we're forcing somebody to sit through a conflict, then at the very minimum, one person is going to be upset, and possibly more, and then it's no longer fun. And others at the table will end up feeling it, sensing it, and things like that, and it's just not the right mix for those situations.
One of the favorite things that you do, or one of my favorite things, is that you from time to time have your fundraisers, special games that you do to raise money for a charity. Can you tell us about the charity and what it means to you to be able to contribute in that way?
Yes, the charity that we typically use, or that I typically use, is the Trevor Project, which is an organization that provides a safe space
with the
for LGBT youth to call in if they are feeling lonely, or in extreme cases starting to consider suicide. The mission of the Trevor Project is to end suicide among LGBT youth. And over the last few years, it has become even more important than ever, or even have to be cautious, and all of these things. And, and the system itself is designed in such a way that it's very easy to fail. Rosters, for instance, are still written with legal names. A substitute goes in and slip of the tongue, quickly accidentally misnames a kid who who is trying to live their best self, or the teacher who down the hall, one teacher is great and is willing to work with the student, the next one is like no, and just unwilling to see that this is an important facet of growing up and of being who they are.
Mm-hmm. I feel like there really needs to be other avenues. I mean, there are other systems for schooling, but just the structure itself is not built for, people that are going to be outside of this society norm.
Right.
So what do you do? How do you raise the money for the charity, and how much do you get to raise in a game?
So I change up the procedure with different games. I try and mix it up a little bit because I like to make it a show where I can call it out and say, hey, let's donate in this way. I've done some player versus player games that have been Hunger Game style. So the audience drops funds in to boost their player that they're supporting, and then all of the funds are donated. Those are pretty good money makers because they can see an immediate impact, and then I turn around and it's donated off. But other ones have been a little bit more along the lines of, hey, this is just a show, but during the show, if you can contribute, it kind of becomes a bit of like a telethon style. So I like to mix it up. I do, as I said, I've had ADHD, so if I'm doing the same thing all the time, I get bored. But on average, over the last I think 4 games that we've done that have been fundraisers, the average per game has been about $580.
That is a great way to be able to contribute to charity, and also, like, at the same time, you're also building community, right? Like, yeah, and because it's not just the players playing, it's the people, the audience that are watching and interacting. And
exactly.
Are the players able to also donate?
The players donate with their registration fee, and then if they go out of the game, then they are able to donate. And of course, anybody is free to donate outside of the realm of the game, but I don't let the players go in and boost their own sword.
I mean, that makes sense. The people would be like, yeah, I have like 500 rerolls now.
Nah.
Oh my. Okay. So what's your favorite thing about being a DM, and what's your least favorite?
My favorite is just building the stories, building the world, seeing where people take the ideas that I have. I sometimes run games that are based on published material, and I sometimes run games that are completely original. And both are a lot of fun to watch. Okay, here's the situation. What will the players do with it? And my favorite moments are those moments where I can be a deer in the headlights. Like, wait, what did you just do? All right, let's go. Let's figure this out. And trying to kind of, even on the spot, having to put all of that together. I don't mind that 30 seconds. Hey, give me a minute. I need to I need to figure this out. Because those are really cool moments when a player can surprise me like that. Least favorite is the paperwork, the back office, the financials and things like that. I do this as a living, so I do have to do all of those kinds of things. And I am mostly one person show. I do have a couple of mods who help me run the community and help me with some of the art and such like that I work with, but for the most part, I am doing it all by myself. So, some of those back office things can be a bit tedious, especially for someone with neurodivergence and such.
Yeah, no, I hear you there. I think that every small business, their least favorite is the paperwork and like the legalities, and it's like, can I just do what I like and then that's it? Here's my next question. How do you make sure that you stay or maintain your own self-care as you're running these games?
So the games themselves are scheduled. And depending on how many I am currently running at any given time, that can account for anywhere between like 18 and 24 hours in a week, approximately, because I run 3-hour sessions. But all of my other time is kind of moodable, able to be shifted and changed and updated as needed. So if I need a day off, I can kind of give myself the day off. I have to make sure that I'm ready for the games. But part of my part of my neurodivergence is I'm also very good at being able to improvise if I need to. My great secret is that some of my games I walk in and I may not have a full plan for where the game may go. It's going to be, let's see where we start, and the decisions of the players will take us forward. It's something that I learned in teaching, where I was able to walk in at 6 in the morning and have a lesson ready by 7. So I don't necessarily always need a huge amount of time. Also, some of the adventures that I plan, I overplan them. So I take longer. It takes me maybe a day to plan out what would effectively be 4 or 5 sessions to get through this next segment. So it allows me to kind of shift my time and move it as I need to. And then I work from home with a couple of dogs, and that allows me to kind of spend time with them and make sure that they're doing okay, and things like that. So I kind of am able to just set my schedule up as I need to, for the most part, which helps a lot.
Yeah, that's the best thing, or one of the best things of having your own business, right? Is you get to make the shots and change things around. And is there any time that like you might have to cancel a game because of you need to do something self-care, prioritize that over the game?
I try to make them as few as I can, because obviously that's where I make the money. But if I do, I'm honest and upfront with my players. I tell them, hey, this is what's going on. I'm sorry. And part of that also comes with being very forgiving with my players. My cancellation policy, I try to keep it as relaxed as I possibly can, while also keeping in mind that if a player cancels, it might have a follow-on effect if there's too many cancellations, or if it's so late that I can't make adjustments. So things like that, and so I try and be as forgiving as I can with my players, and because of that, I feel like most of them are pretty forgiving if I ever need to cancel.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, and I think that building that community and having the relationship that you have with your community, it makes that easier, because I mean, everyone has something that they're dealing with too, and they know how it goes. And so when you're like, hey, this is happening, I have to cancel, I feel like everyone would be understanding. And
yeah, I try and imagine myself in the player's place, honestly. And I think that makes life a whole lot easier. I did the same thing with my students. I tried to imagine what it was like when I was sitting in their chairs, because it's so easy when you slip into a new role to kind of become that controlling, or that person who is like, this is mine, this is my space, you're visiting me. And I don't want it to be that way. I want this to be our space, our place. And kind of having that imagination, being able to sit and think about what it's like from the player's perspective, I feel like that's also earned me a lot of loyalty and a lot of community.
Is there any other advice that you'd give someone who maybe is fed up with their career, or feel like their mental health is having an issue with what they're doing, and they don't know whether or not what to do with their life?
Well, the first thing I would say is, if your career is causing you mental health challenges, get out. Find something new. Find something that works with you, and that you can feel like you can truly contribute in a way that suits who you are. After going through a number of different careers in my life, it doesn't get better. If you're going to sit there and try and stick it out, it's not going to get better. Or at least that's been my experience. And the next career might be the right one, and it might not, but at least it'll be something different, and you can try it and settle and kind of go in and figure it out. And whether it be something that you're doing for yourself, something for a nonprofit, something for somebody, a company that you believe in, any of that. But if you're not feeling it with the place that you're in, I don't feel like it tends to get better. Um, it's at best it's going to be sustained, and you're going to be trying to just kind of swim through until whatever next goal that you have. So take advantage of opportunities when you find them. Don't be afraid to jump on and just start looking. Maybe you're not at the point where you're breaking yet, but you are starting to feel the pinch. Don't hesitate to get out there and look for a new possibility, a new opportunity. Maybe you do have a personal passion that you might be able to monetize. Maybe you have maybe there's some networking that you've been able to do, so some people that you've been able to connect with, or maybe you just find a new job in the same field but with a different entity, whether it be in a different company, a different organization, whatever it might be. But get yourself to a place where you feel like you can be desired, needed, wanted, and valued for the skills and the personality that you bring to your place.
Yeah, I agree with that. A couple of things came up to my mind. Is like the first thing is, the saying that people are like, oh, people don't quit jobs, they quit the boss. Or rather, like it's very uh what your experience is in a certain job very much depends on who you are doing it with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's been several times where I've been in a job and I've had ideas and I've had thoughts and things like that, and I bring them up, and I feel like I get ignored. And then a few months later, that same idea comes up again, and the company is in trouble because they didn't listen to me and things like that. I mean, this is part of that neurodivergence. I am different. I have different ways of thinking, and it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to say the right thing at the right time. But it definitely feels like I should be heard. And working for myself, I will say I am often heard.
You're often heard? Do you hear back from yourself?
Yeah. I mean, I work in role play. I have hundreds of NPCs that live in my mind. I can go to any one of them and have a discussion if I ever need to.
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like that's another like ADHD like power, because yeah, I don't know about you, but I have like a narrator in my head all the time. So yeah. The other thing I was thinking of, like, is that you don't owe your job anything. You don't owe them, loyalty for the rest of your life. Like they, especially if it's a corporate, like it's a business that, isn't necessarily caring about each and individual person, right? They can just replace you.
Yeah. We've long since passed the era where corporations feel any sort of responsibility for their employees in general. That doesn't mean that there aren't some out there that are wonderful, but so many of them, see people as a warm body in the chair. And as a matter of fact, I had one job where that was exactly as I was referred when they created scheduling, and it just felt terrible. It's like, you don't want me for my skills. You don't want me for who I am or what I can bring to the table. You want me because I can take an order. And that just doesn't feel good. And it doesn't make me feel like I'm valued or useful or anything more than, hey, I'm breathing. Great. And then they don't take care of me after that, so,
Right? Yeah. The My biggest pet peeve is when they start saying, "Oh yeah, we're a family here," and then like the first moment they can throw you under the bus, they will. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Give us real insurance, give us real understanding, add mental health to those insurance plans. You want me at my best, then put me in a position where I can be my best, and do it in such a way that doesn't make me feel like I should be grateful for the minimal efforts. Um, because often, at least in my experience, it was minimal efforts.
yeah. And I mean, that's one thing that um, that is very important to me, is to try to change that mindset of, you know, mental health doesn't matter, or that like even the corporations and things that say, hey, we care about you, we care about your mental health, but they still don't want you to use it. Like they don't want you to actually take care of yourself. It's
Mm-hmm.
just words.
Yeah.
So, and then there's this huge stigma around, like, especially in America, I feel like it's like this um idea that you are supposed to work to live instead of live to work. I mean, the other way around. You're supposed to live to work, is what they think, and we should work to live and just, have, because like our lives are not like we aren't our job. Like,
Right. And yet we have to spend almost a third of our lives in our jobs just to do what we need to do, just to survive. And the costs are incredible. Um, Look at any element of inflation, and the fact that average pay has not matched it for most people. Now there are, of course, those who have found their way into wonderful jobs that work for them, and great. That is perfect. That is exactly telling you you're exactly where you need to be. But if you're not where you need to be, give yourself that opportunity to find it, whatever it is. There are a lot of opportunities out there, um, and the give yourself those opportunities to explore, because that's really what our human experience is about, and what role playing has taught me. It's about exploration. It's about trying things and seeing what's out there and what we can do. And sometimes it takes a leap. Sometimes it takes a bit of crazy to do it. But there are avenues out there in life that can allow you to really just explore and take that leap.
mm-hmm. Yeah, that is that's a great point. My Yeah, I was thinking of too about the fact that living expenses, like you have to have like five people living in in the house to, make the bills work.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, so I think that is a very important thing to remember, is just like you need to take care of yourself. Like if you are forcing yourself to be in this thing that's hurting your mental health, that's hurting your well-being, you're not going to be a good worker. Like, you're not, if you're in any position where you're like supposed to be helping others, there's no way, there's nothing in your bucket to help.
One of my first jobs that I ever had was as a lifeguard, and one of the first lessons they taught us was that you have to take care of yourself first. If you are in danger, now we have to save two people. So it's applicable in all areas. The ability to know that, hey, you need help, if you can't help others if you yourself are struggling, because you need to take care of that.
I kind of wish that, like, I don't know, the entire healthcare system and people there would know this, or like actually follow that. Um, I know, I know, and yeah, we need to fix that somehow.
We underfund and understaff so much, and You know, you're in help, you're in food service, and you're sick, and the boss says, well, I need you to come in anyway because I don't have enough people to cover your shift. And I mean, I get it from the boss's perspective. I get, you know, that makes sense. But at the same time, do you really want the news coming at you, telling you, you know, with a you know, being a nexus of illness? Like, you know, sometimes these things just don't make sense. We do it in education. We force students to keep coming back even if they're ill. We do it in so many areas because we don't have the capabilities to fund things in the way that they should be to take care of the people who actually make them work. We saw it in the pandemic, and when we returned, we went back to exactly the way things were. We learned no lessons.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Like, you would think that, you know, we would learn from this, but apparently not. um, do you have any suggestions for people who want to start an online business?
Um, find your passion. It's got to be something that you're passionate about and something that you really want to do, because if you are doing it for yourself, there is nobody there to light the fire. There is nobody there to push you forward or anything like that. So if you don't have the passion for it, it's going to be really hard to push yourself forward. And then second, be flexible. Because the thing that you may really, really want to try might not be feasible right away. You might need to work your way to it. You might need to earn your way into it. For myself, I really wanted to start with a completely like original story. But I found that my way into the industry was I needed to have something grounded, something that was published so that people had an understanding for it. And the great benefit of a published story is that now others who have run the same published story can relate to the conversation. So I learned that along the way. So, you know, being flexible, being able to pivot and make changes, and sometimes even having to cap, putting a limit on what you are expecting at a realistic point. It doesn't mean that other goals that you have can't be attained later on, but you need to be ready to, you know, pivot and move about and maybe say, hey, that secondary thing, it's really cool. I don't think I'm there yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that reminds me. Someone told me once that you need to have like the income that pays for the things that you actually want to do.
Yeah, that's important as well. As you know, you be realistic with yourself. Is the income that you're going to make enough to support what you need it to? And finally, understand that there might be a good month and then there might be a bad month, and you have to be able to kind of roll with those punches. It's going to be a lot less steady in that sense.
But I think that if you do have the passion and the bandwidth to start your own business, then that's fantastic. But
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I also feel like when you're doing that, you need to also prioritize your own well-being as well, and not, you know, go overboard in all the things. There's so many different parts of a business to, you know, put together in order to make a business. But you don't have to do all of those things. Like, you can outsource for the things that you aren't really as strong in, like accounting or whatever it is. Um, but yeah.
Also, if you make mistakes, learn from them. That's really important. You're going to make mistakes because everybody does, but it's okay. Learn from them and keep growing. If you have to take a step back and reevaluate now that you've learned some new things, you know, take a job to kind of pad the finances or whatever, then do it and then come back when you are ready. Just because you have to divert your path doesn't mean that the end goal is out of sight.
Yeah, I love that. I'm a firm believer of like the journey there. it doesn't have to be linear. Like where you're going. And as long as you keep that, kind of in your mind, it doesn't matter how you get there. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And because there will be things that will be outside of your control that are going to crop up. In a role-playing analogy, if the bandits knock down a tree and make it so that your carriage can't go over it, are you going to try and just force the horses to climb over this tree and then pull the carriage over it, or are you going to find a way to either move the tree or go around the tree? What do you try and do here? You're still going to get to your destination, but you might have to take a few steps and figure out a new way forward, a new path. It might be darker, it might be harder, it might be different. But all of those things are part of that experience. And by the time you get to that end goal, it's going to be really worth it because you'll have had those experiences.
Yeah. And the other thing is, like, every experience is a lesson. So any setback, any roadblock, like, there are opportunities for self-growth, and that's just as important as getting to the end goal. So awesome. Well, I really enjoyed talking to you today. Do you have anything else that you want to talk to the audience about before we go?
Yeah, just take every day one day at a time. I live in a world of role play and of adventures, but that is what life is as well. So, experience the adventure, experience the journey. Remember that every day is a new step, a new opportunity. There are roadblocks, but there are amazing, wonderful stars along the way as well. So enjoy the adventure, take it in, and allow yourself to be the best possible you can.
Mm-hmm. You are the author of your own story.
Exactly.
I love it. Well, I hope we can do this again sometime.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Thanks so much. Well, take care.